A Russian aircraft blacklisted by the US of A for previously transporting Russian equipment landed under suspicious circumstances on the 2nd of October 2025 at Upington in South Africa. Now, this occurred last week Thursday, but the news broke about it over the weekend, and to say it has raised some red flags is an understatement. This behavior is definitely suspicious. Now, what we do know about this aircraft is that it is owned by a Russian Moscow-based company known as Abakan Air, and this aircraft, it's a cargo aircraft, so it transports not passengers but cargo, and it is known as the Ilyushin IL-76, and it has previously been accused of transporting Russian military equipment, and it has also been accused of a whole lot of other things that go against international aviation laws. For example, according to the blacklist.aviation, that is a site that tracks all these airplanes, it has been accused of turning its transponders off at specific times. Transponders are those things that track where the airplane is going so that it can appear on radar. And we also know that it has been accused of previously filing false flight plans with false destinations. And one has to wonder, why is this suspicious activity going on? Now, where it came from is even more suspicious because it did not come from Russia, according to an article that was published in the report. Before it arrived here, the plane spent a considerable amount of time in Iran. Now, how do we know that? Well, according to reports, it was last seen in Iran, and it reportedly switched its transponders off, right, before it came to South Africa. Only when it landed in Dar es Salaam did it turn its transponders back on so it could be tracked on radar. Now, once it landed in Upington Aircraft, eyewitnesses said that it appeared to be heavily loaded. Now, what is in Upington? For those of you who are perhaps not South African or not local, Upington is not a great tourist attraction. It is not an international airport. We have Oro Tambo, which is in Johannesburg, as well as Cape Town International Airports. But what is in Upington is two things. It has a really long runway, one of the longest in the world, almost 5 kilometers, because it was previously used in South Africa decades ago as a nuclear testing facility. I'll get into that later. And another thing that is in Upington is a nuclear waste disposal. But we do know that it is basically used for military type of operations. Now, once it landed in Upington and the cargo was unloaded, then later that same day, it just departed from Upington and went to Lanseria, which is one of the lesser airports in Johannesburg. It's not the main one. And there it refueled and left again. Now, we know that the aviation watchdog blacklist.aero had already warned South African service providers not to service and refuel the plane because it is already owed a lot it already owes a lot of money. It has outstanding debt of 17 million rand, about almost $1 million US. But according to the report, payment arrangements were made with a local company just before landing. Now, the news was above buzz the weekend because people were wondering, did the South African government know? Well, according to the South African Civil Aviation Authority, they did indeed issue a flight permit on the 23rd of September 2025, and they said they were not aware that this plane was blacklisted by the US because it is not blacklisted in South Africa, and they believed it was carrying general cargo such as a civilian helicopter and acrobatic aircraft, and they had no idea of this blacklist. Now, something else that we also know is that it has been confirmed that it has not been transporting our helicopter equipment. So for those of you who do not know, when South Africa got involved in sending soldiers along with the African Union to the conflict that is busy happening in Congo, they sent a bunch of our helicopters. And we know that At least 3 have remained behind, one in Goma that is being guarded, and another 2 in the capital of the Congo, where they have been painted white because they were used in a UN mission, but they are non-operational. So the South African government has confirmed that it was not carrying those aircraft from the Congo that has been left behind, but instead has been carrying something else. Now, for those of you who also don't know, let's talk a little bit about the nuclear facility that was there in the past. So the nuclear facility in Upington that was used to test nuclear weapons under apartheid, and it was known as the Trap, which means basically to step hard, is the South African National Defence Force weapons test range. It is in the Kalahari Desert, and it is northeast of Upington. And this was used to test nuclear weapons before South Africa signed that agreement, saying that they would no longer develop nuclear weapons when they joined the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. Now, we know that that range is still used by the South African Air Force for tactical training and for bombing operations, to practice bombing, among other things. And it just makes me wonder, why did that plane land in Upington? Another theory, and this is pure speculation, is because there is a waste facility there, a nuclear waste facility that recycles nuclear waste. The nuclear waste facility that recycles radioactive waste is known as the Volputs Radioactive Waste Disposal Facility. But if that was carrying helicopters, why were they transported to Upington? What is the link between the South African government and these helicopters, civilian helicopters, as well as acrobatic aircraft? I'm not too sure what that means. But what is the